Hello everyone, and welcome to another mall adventure. In this video, we're going to be exploring Broadway Commons Mall in Hicksville, New York, out on Long Island. This mall was built in the 50s as an open-air shopping center and was converted into an enclosed mall in 1968. In the near future, this mall will undergo a major renovation to demolish the enclosed portions and bring it back to being an outdoor mall. This video will feature two parts: my footage from my visit in January 2026, and a Google Street View walkthrough from 2014 that shows all the old stores and features that have been removed from this mall. This mall is very empty looking at this point. In preparation for the upcoming demolition, most of the stores have not renewed their leases, so we see a lot of vacancies. I want to get into a little history of this mall and how we arrived at this point, and what the future holds for Broadway Commons. This mall first opened in 1956 as an open-air shopping center known as the Mid-Island Shopping Plaza. It was developed as a joint venture of Allied Stores and the Sackler and Frank Company. The main anchor was the Queens-based department store Gertz, who built a 5-story building, the tallest suburban department store at the time. You know that big gray box we saw walking in? That was it. The plaza featured 41 stores, including 2 supermarkets. The main court featured a large starburst sculpture suspended from an archway. Beneath the mall, a large truck tunnel was built, which was designated a civil defense emergency shelter. The mall saw success as the surrounding Nassau County suburbs grew in population. In 1964, a multiplex movie theater was added to the plaza, and in 1969, an S. Klein department store was built as part of a major renovation to convert the shopping center into an enclosed mall. It was then renamed to the Mid-Island Plaza. In 1975, S. Klein's became Corvettes and later closed in 1980. In 1983, the Gertz was rebranded as a Stearns department store as the two companies merged. The mall underwent an $80 million refurbishment in the early 80s, and the mall was purchased by Long Island-based Delco Development Corporation. In 1987, the mall underwent further updates and was renamed to the Broadway Mall. In 1990, the multiplex cinemas was demolished to make way for an IKEA, which opened up in 1991. In 1994, the former Corvettes building was demolished to make way for a new cinema and adjacent food court. In 1999, a single-level JCPenney's was built, however it was short-lived as it closed in 2002. The space was then converted into a Target, which is still in operation today. In 2001, the Stearns was rebranded as a Macy's as the brand was retired by Federated Department Stores. The mall was given another renovation in 2015, updating its appearance to what we see today. The mall was renamed again, this time to Broadway Commons. A Round 1 arcade and bowling alley opened in the space formerly occupied by a Stephen Barry's and Sam Goody. In 2020, the Macy's closed, and in 2024, the mall was purchased by Long Island-based group KBTF Broadway LLC. They announced plans to demolish the Macy's building and the enclosed portion of the mall to make way for a new outdoor lifestyle center. And that brings us to where we are today. If I may express my personal opinions on this mall's redevelopment, while this mall may have been facing some struggles, it didn't seem to be in as much dire straits as some of the malls I've covered in the past. I'm not even sure if I would call this place a dead or dying mall when you have a thriving Target, IKEA, and Round 1 attached to it. If the owners of this mall wanted to keep this alive as an enclosed mall, it wouldn't be impossible to do it. I think that real estate developers are starting to see a stigma attached to malls and are looking to redevelop them out of fear of them becoming dead malls. Many developers in recent years have demolished malls that were still doing okay just because they wanted to redevelop them and squeeze more money out of the property. They buy the property, terminate the leases on all the stores, or even raise the rent to force them out just so they can bulldoze the place and build something else. I think people overstate the impact of online shopping on malls. People still like going to the mall. There are malls that are still doing well, still thriving, and if you visit them on the weekends, they're packed with people. I blame greedy developers for dead malls much more than I do online shopping. So Broadway Commons will become a lifestyle center with the intention of being a community hub, but places like that never really fulfill that function in the same way malls do. Although they are an aspect of consumerism, malls have a historical value tied to the people who worked and shopped at them. And this is another example of companies taking away something that had cultural impact in order to increase their revenue. Anyway, sorry to get off on a rant. Let's check out this video game store. This is Video Game Trading Post, and they have several locations on Long Island. And I love the presentation they have in the front window with all these old games and consoles on display. And that's Rob the Robot for the original NES. It always makes me happy to see small businesses thriving inside of malls, especially if they're a hobby store like this one. Look at these Ninja Turtle arcade cabinets. I gotta say, the artwork on these goes really hard. I gotta say, I was really blown away by just the sheer number of video games they had on sale here. I don't think I've ever seen so many video games in just one spot. GameStop has been closing many of its locations nationwide, and I think this is a great opportunity for stores like this one to step up and fill the void. I know this location will probably have to close when the mall is demolished, but I hope their other locations continue to thrive because this is a really great store. And check this out, this is a 90s era Disney store. Now if you were a kid going to the mall in the 90s, this place was absolutely magical. We will see what this store used to look like later on in the video. Continuing on, down at the end of this wing is the IKEA, Round 1, food court, and former movie theater. I have to say the food court at this mall was probably one of the saddest things I've ever seen in a mall. This little court area is kind of cool with these hanging lanterns. Overall, not a very interesting looking mall. It used to have more character, but they removed most of that in the 2015 renovation. But we'll see more of that later. And let's take the escalator up to the food court. There was nothing open at all here in this food court. Over the past year, the mall's owners stopped renewing the leases on all the eateries here in the food court to prepare for the oncoming demolition. Over here is the movie theater, and this is a very cool looking theater. And this just closed in January of 2025. Movie theaters are another thing that are disappearing from the world, and it makes me so sad because it's such an important part of our culture. It's something we all grew up doing, and I can't believe they're all going to be gone. Remember when people would bring camcorders into the theater and record movies so they could post them online? Is that something people still do? Anyway, let's take a walk around this food court, and there is absolutely nothing left open in here. I believe this spot used to be a Sparrow Pizza. Over here was Charlie's Cheesesteaks. I think it's really funny that they have no trespassing signs up in a food court that's technically open to the public. Over here is a sushi place called Sushi.com, which makes me think that it was probably opened sometime in the late 90s to early 2000s, back when the internet was still considered a novelty and putting .com at the end of things was a funny thing to do. But it's definitely a cool looking food stall, all that tile work and old neon lights. And this Chinese Gourmet is another cool looking old school food court stand. I just love that tile work. That's another thing that you really don't see very often anymore. And a mall food court wouldn't be complete without a teriyaki chicken place. That's probably my favorite thing to get at the mall food court. They reel you in with that little sample on the toothpick, and then I'm done. I just have to go get a plate. And another no trespassing sign. Just such a funny thing to see in an open mall. And over this way was the subway. And you can tell that this was a newer addition because it's not an old school style subway. Over here is the elevator down to the bottom floor, and let's take a look down that elevator shaft. Kind of a scary feeling looking at that in person. They even took out all the equipment in the kids' play area. Just very sad to see what was once a really nice, cool-looking food court just turned into a ghost town like that. Now, you know I can't walk past an arcade and not go inside. Let's go take a look at what they have in this round one. I gotta say, I really love round one. It's everything that Dave & Buster's is, but so much better. They just have such a great variety of game cabinets here, just all kinds of stuff that's imported that you just won't see in any other arcade. Games that are brand new but still kind of have that classic fun feel to them. I can't wait for them to open up one closer to where I live. I'm gonna be there as soon as they open that up to check that out. Look at these basketball games. Oh, they were so much fun to play as a kid, and these are like new versions of them. And over here we have Monopoly and Wizard of Oz. Let's give this a spin and see what happens. I'm very simple. You put me in an arcade and I am very happy. Look at this Jurassic World truck game. And over here we have a Shaq themed game. I swear, Shaq, he will put his name on anything. Icy Hot, go to the General and save some time. He even has his own chicken restaurant. We have these big screen sit-down versions of classic arcade games, and I gotta say, they are so much fun, especially the Space Invaders one. And my jaw dropped when I saw this one. Castlevania was one of my favorite game series growing up as a kid. This is some sort of marble game, but it features all the old Castlevania characters, and just look at all the theming on that. You have some kind of castle scene there. I don't know how you play this game, but it looks amazing. I'm gonna have to come back and try it out. Yeah, just look at all the old Castlevania characters there. And down here, we have Alucard from Symphony of the Night. One of the best games ever, I think. I like this baseball game with these cool little cartoon baseball players here. I don't know how you play that, but it certainly looks like a lot of fun. And over here we have Popeye, another forgotten cartoon franchise. You really don't see Popeye too often anymore, but I guess they're showing it love here at round one. I guess maybe Popeye has a bigger presence in Japan nowadays. Not really sure, but this game certainly looked like a lot of fun. You have Popeye and Bluto down there, and you have all these marbles. I'm not sure how these games work. I guess you gotta drop the marbles in the right sequence or something. And when this game caught my eye, I ran over to it as quickly as I could. I am a big Godzilla fan, and I could not believe my eyes when I saw this game with a massive Godzilla inside it spinning around, looking all mean. Just look at that. How cool is that? It's a massive Godzilla. I wonder how much it would cost to have one of these installed in my living room. It's something I'm going to look into in the future. And they have rows and rows of claw machine games. I know some people are really into playing these games. Look at that giant Knuckles. I used to play claw machine games all the time when I was a kid at the arcades on the Jersey Shore, and I used to be pretty good at them. I don't know if I'm still any good at them, but maybe one day I'll come back here and give it a try. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me do some crane machine vlogs. So that's going to do it for the footage I took on my visit, but stick around because we're going to hop in the time machine and take a look at what this mall looked like in 2014. I stumbled across this walkthrough on Google Maps when I was doing research on this mall. I know it says 2018 up in the top left corner, but this was captured in 2014. This was definitely before the 2015 renovation took place at this mall. Already we can see that this place looks much different. We have all this glass block surrounding the entranceway. This place has a much different vibe from how it currently looks. We can see that this place still has color and some design character to it, unlike just how drab and boring it looks nowadays. We're going to go through and look at all of the old stores that used to be open in this mall. We have an old school looking Panera with that nice warm toned wood. And over here is New York & Company. I believe that chain is now defunct. All their locations are closed. I love these planters here. I'm not sure if they're real or fake, but they look good. And the tile work with that blue and green tile, it just screams 90s. I believe this was from the 1995 renovation to the mall. And it may be hard to see, but if we look in the vestibule, we can see some old payphones, another thing that has completely disappeared from the world. Look at all this beautiful natural light coming through those skylights. I love days like this at the mall. It's just such a great vibe. Here we have a Payless Shoe Source, and that's another brand that has completely shut down all their stores. We have a Rainbow, but I believe this spot was likely another store before it was a Rainbow. In my travels, I've seen several mall stores that have this look with sort of those interesting wall sconces and the earth tone tile on the floor. This may have been a wet seal store at one point, but I'm unsure of that. Look at those cool lighting fixtures. If you happen to know what this used to be, please let me know. I've seen stores like this at 2 or 3 other malls, and they all had a different store inside of them, so I really don't know. Over here we have Champs Sports, and that was closed on my visit. I remember back then, this aqua blue and magenta colorway was really popular on sneakers and clothes. I thought it looked really cool. I kind of hope it makes a comeback. And now over here is a Toys R Us Express. Back before Toys R Us went under and closed all their stores, they would have these smaller pop-up locations inside malls. But something else you'll notice about this is a former KB Toys. These columns were a feature from old KB Toys storefronts. And let's give ourselves a good look inside. So it's not quite the same as the KB Toys that I remember from being a kid, but we can still see some of the old features of the store here. We can see those lighting fixtures and the drop ceiling definitely looks like an old KB. And just seeing all these toys at a store in the mall just makes me happy. I feel so bad for the kids growing up nowadays who won't get to experience that. Okay, let's continue on. We have a Foot Locker over here. We saw the empty shell of this store earlier in the video, but here we can see it fully stocked and operational. And over here is the Famous Footwear. Again, we saw that empty earlier in the video. And here we have Pretzel Maker. I guess Pretzel Maker would be considered a competitor to Auntie Anne's, but I don't think I've ever had a pretzel from Pretzel Maker. Look at that old menu board. Again, that's another thing you don't see anymore because they've all been replaced with screens. And let's look at these irresistibles. You have Incredible and Delectable. So if you want a bowl of pretzel nuggets covered in chili and cheese, Pretzel Maker is the place to go for that. Over here we have an early 2000s era Hot Topic. We have the entryway with those bent steel girders. And these were cool looking, but not as cool looking as the 90s Hot Topic with the creepy gates to hell. That was back when people were actually scared to go inside a Hot Topic. And on my recent visit, this Hot Topic had actually moved out of this space into a different space in the mall, and we're going to see what that used to be in just a few moments. And let's just stop here for a moment and take in the vibe in this mall. Now, I believe that this interior was from a renovation they did in 1995 in this mall. Over here we have an Old Navy, and it doesn't look like Old Navy has really changed all that much. They have the famous Old Navy American flag shirts for the whole family. Oh, look at these mannequins. They're actually a little bit creepy. So this capture must have been posted by somebody working at the mall, and they picked just a beautiful day to do it. Look at all that light coming through the skylights. Over here we have a Hallmark Gold Crown store, and now these stores are closing up all over the place. You don't see too many Hallmark stores around anymore. Over here we have a Zumiez store. So I think Zumiez still has a lot of locations open inside malls that are doing well, but every time I go to a dead mall or a struggling mall, I seem to find an empty Zumiez store, so I have to wonder how they're doing as a brand. And we have Periwinkle Boutique. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. It might be an independent brand, but it looks like it's selling accessories and handbags and things like that. And now take a look at this. We have a 90s era Disney store in its full glory. Now, if you got to visit one of these stores as a kid in the 90s, you had a great childhood. Look in the storefront, we can see all the classic characters, Minnie Mouse, Pluto, Donald Duck. This was back when mall stores were big and elaborate, and they went all out with the theming. They just made it a great experience for the people shopping. Just look at all those colors, all that bright seafoam green and magenta and the checkered tile. Just going to stores like this was just such a magical experience. And let's take a look inside the store and see some of the characters that they had on display up top. We have Clarabelle the cow, we have Mickey and Pluto on that giant film strip. And we have Goofy operating the film camera. That's something I always remembered about this store. And I think those ostriches and alligators, I want to say that's a scene from Fantasia. This just really brings me back. It just makes me so happy to be able to look at this again. And one thing people remember about this store was there was a giant rack of plushies that were sort of arranged in a big pile. I don't think we can really get a look at it on this one, but I'm pretty sure it's back there. And here we have a scene from The Lion King. We have Simba and Rafiki. And it looks like we have Donald Duck up here. I'm just so glad that they captured this. And I don't know if I can keep looking at it because I think I might start crying. Anyway, let's keep moving on through the mall. We have Express, and that was closed on my visit. That's a brand that I don't think is doing very well. And it seems to me that the type of clothing that they sell there is just sort of falling out of fashion with younger people. And over here we have the Macy's, and this walkthrough doesn't take us inside the Macy's, but we'll see what we can look at from the outside. This was originally the Gertz department store, and it was one of the largest department stores ever built at the time. I would love to be able to see what this looked like inside. I bet it was just filled with old school features. And let's pause again to just appreciate the vibe in this mall. It's just such a shame that they stripped out all the character of this mall. It's happened to so many malls across this country, and it's just a real shame. I don't know what these panels on the wall are for. I don't know if they're covering up openings that may have been there, but they definitely remind me of the New York subway. And here we can get a good look of the center court area. I gotta say, I really appreciate just how much natural light there is inside this mall. I love it when malls have just these big glass atrium areas. It's just such a beautiful feature. Okay, so we're going to continue down near the Target, and I just love the way the light hits this little plant here. And even this ad board here is really cool looking with the bright teal color on it. You just have to stop and appreciate little details like that, because so much detail is just being stripped out of places like this one. And what do you notice about this clothing store? This is a former Suncoast Motion Picture Company store. Now, this was one of my favorite stores to go to as a kid and later as a teenager. It was a place that sold mainly VHS tapes, but you could go there and find stuff that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. Like all kinds of weird foreign movies, anime, stuff like that. And the stores just had an amazing vibe. They were full of red neon lights, and they had that grid ceiling, which you can still see inside this store. I miss Suncoast so much. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again in terms of physical media stores. And here we have a customer service counter, and it actually has a person working at it. In all the malls I've been going to lately, both living and dead, I don't think I've ever seen a customer service center, and one that actually has somebody working at it. I feel like that's just something that's been phased out because people have all that information available on their phones now. So now over here we have Frederick's of Hollywood, which was a lingerie store. And this was kind of like Victoria's Secrets, but I guess a little more risque, let me just say that. And this space is where the Hot Topic currently is inside the mall. And one thing you'll notice about this store is they actually have leopard print carpet. And I think this is another brand that just no longer has any physical stores anymore. Over here we have the nail salon and hair salon. And look at these kiddie rides. Just look at that happy school bus right there. And over here is the Forever 21, and I believe this actually has two entrances out in the mall. The one here and another one out in the main court area. And here we have the GameStop, and I would say it's likely that this was an electronics boutique before becoming a GameStop. Now GameStop is a brand that's on its way out. They've just closed up stores all over the country. I would be surprised if there are still GameStops around within the next few years. From what I've heard, the CEO is just a real dirtbag, and he's running the company into the ground so he can squeeze whatever money he can get out of it. It makes me really sad because I have a lot of good memories of going to GameStop and getting new games back in the PlayStation 2 era. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is a great opportunity for smaller game stores to rise up and fill the void. Down here is the Target, and this building is supposed to remain after the redevelopment. Alrighty, now let's head back to the main court area of the mall and make our way towards the IKEA. Let's just take another look at the vibe here in the center area. So even though this was captured in 2014, this still just has a very 90s vibe to it. And it just makes me so sad to know that all this is going to be gone. I feel like this mall really deserved better. And here we can see the second entrance to the Forever 21. I guess that would make this sort of a junior anchor. Over here we have Claire's, which is another brand that has closed up many of their mall locations in recent years. I know so many people have memories of getting their ears pierced at Claire's. And we have Lids, which is a store that I'm really surprised is still in business at all. I feel like a store specializing in one thing like hats is really putting all your eggs into one basket. And this store looked so cool. This is Gadgets and Gizmos, and look at that neon sign up above it. This definitely looks like a 90s era store. And this looks a lot like it's a souvenir shop at a tourist attraction. Looks like it just has like a lot of toys and games and gifts and things like that. Let's look at some of the stuff they have here in the window. This almost reminds me of how Spencer Gifts used to be back when I was growing up, back when they still sold like a lot of gifts and toys and stuff like that. Just look at all this cool, fun stuff they have here. I don't know, I know stores like this are tacky, but I really enjoy them. They're just fun to go in and see all the stuff. Okay, and let's continue on towards the IKEA and the food court. So we can see the stores in this section are modern looking stores, but I believe almost all of them are closed now. And over here we have a very bright and colorful Auntie Anne's pretzel stand. I don't think the modern ones look quite like this anymore. I think they're just kind of plain white colored. So remember how earlier in the video I was talking about that one store that I thought might have been a wet seal? So here we have a store that's definitely a wet seal. And now Wet Seal is another mall store that has gone defunct. And down this way we have Kids Foot Locker, Spencer Gifts, Journey's Shoes, all closed up. Even this Metro PCS kiosk is kind of cool looking. It's just that bright purple color. You don't see anything colorful like this anymore. Everything is either gray or white, and it's really depressing. I know it seems strange to be geeking out over a cell phone kiosk at the mall, but it's just really jarring when you realize how much color and character has been removed from our everyday lives. And here we have Justice and Brothers, which was their line for boys. And again, another store that is just totally defunct, all locations closed. Here we have an old-style Charlotte Russe store, and Charlotte Russe is still going. There are still Charlotte Russe locations open at various different malls. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the vibe here. I take a lot of pictures when I go to malls, and I love days like this when all the lights coming through the skylights and hitting the plants and everything. This would have been a beautiful day to take pictures of this mall. Here we have H&M, and over here we have Rue 21, which, once again, another chain that has gone completely defunct. Rue 21 was a brand that I don't think it had anything interesting about it, enough to distinguish it from other clothing stores at the mall. Like, there was nothing really distinct about the clothing that they sold here to differentiate it from any other store, so I guess that's why they didn't last very long. And here we are at the court in front of the IKEA. And just look at that amazing compass rose in the tile work on the floor here. I really miss malls having grandiose features like this one. Things like that are what made malls interesting places to go. They weren't just places to shop, they were places to go and see things. The buildings themselves had character, they had beauty, and I would even go as far as to say that some malls were works of art. Over here we have a 21 toppings frozen yogurt stand, and frozen yogurt places like this one, they were a big deal in the mid-2000s. Here we have an old Hollister with a porch-style entrance, and now I can't confirm this, but I've heard that they had to phase these out because they're not ADA compliant. And here we have IKEA, and look at that, 50 cents for a hot dog. That's cheaper than Costco. I've been thinking about doing an IKEA vlog. Is that something you guys want to see? Let me know down below in the comments if you want me to go film IKEA. And of course, we have the famous IKEA meatballs. And this store is where the Round 1 currently is, and you can tell that this used to be an old Sam Goody. So the Sam Goody stores from the late 80s and early 90s had sort of this bright neon pink color scheme to it, but the ones built later on in the late 90s and early 2000s, they had this yellow tile color scheme that you see here at this store. And if we go down here, we can see the old Sam Goody logo hidden behind these vending machines. Sam Goody is another store that I miss so much. And over here we have these old vending machines and these payphones. I know things like this seem mundane, but when you see them, you just get a spark of nostalgia and this realization that stuff like this is no longer present in our world. It's a strange feeling, it really is. Alright, now let's head up to the food court and just look at that cool sign hanging above the escalators there. Definitely has a cool late 90s mall vibe to it. And I gotta say, this food court, when you see it, it is absolutely amazing looking. Completely different from what it looks like today. So the first thing that stands out to me is that everything is lined in purple neon lights. It's all around the food stands and even around the skylights. What an amazing vibe. Now let's see what they have to eat here at the food court in 2014. Check out the old school Arby's and McDonald's. Just look at that. That is so awesome. And I love how it's just accented with the old school glass block and the bright colored neon lights. Let's get a close look at this old McDonald's sign. That's definitely old neon there. It's a shame it's not lit up, but you can imagine how cool that must have looked. And let's see if we can get a good look at the old menu board. It's hard to see, but again, it's cool to see an old style menu board instead of a flat screen television. And let's get a close look at the tile work here, those bright red and yellow tiles, back when McDonald's had color. How cool is this? This is just super 90s looking. And we have the old school Arby's. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an Arby's inside a mall food court. I don't even know if there are any left. And over here, the restrooms have a really cool glass block partition. Just an absolutely tremendous vibe here, and there's nothing that looks this cool in the world anymore, unfortunately. We can see the big Golden Arches logo on the wall here, and I just can't get over the neon. It looks like something straight out of an 80s movie. If I were rich, I would make my entire bathroom look like this. And here we can see what the movie theater looked like when it was still open. I wish I could just go back in time and be at this food court, eat a roast beef sandwich, and then go catch a movie, sit under the neon lights. I can't really make out what these movie posters are, but if you happen to recognize any of them, please let me know down in the comments. And this space eventually opened as a Sparrow Pizza, but even here you can still see the neon lights glowing above it. This entire food court, it just looks so cool. I don't know why you would ever want to get rid of this look. I mean, it's old school, but it doesn't look dated. It looks great. It makes the whole place just look fun and inviting. My only hope is that the pendulum swings back and someday this design becomes popular again. Maybe one day it will. Who knows? And let's see some of these stands that were closed on my visit in their full glory. We have Sushi.com and Chinese Gourmet. And this place just looks great. It's bright and colorful, it's fun, it's whimsical. It's everything a place at the mall should be. And over here at Chinese Gourmet, we have another bright neon sign. There's nothing like getting Chinese food from the mall. It's always so good. And just look at these neon lights. I know I'm gushing about it, but just look at these. It's just such an amazing vibe. And they had the audacity to get rid of all this. And they're going to be getting rid of all of this. Everything you see in this video, it's all going to be gone. It just seems like such a waste, and I know the shopping center that they're going to replace this with, it's just not going to be interesting. It's going to be like every other shopping plaza across the country. Here we have Greek Heaven, where you can get souvlaki, falafel, and gyros. I think I said it the right way. And over here is this Subway. Not a very exciting looking Subway. What an amazing food court. And it's a shame that this entire mall is going to disappear. A mall that's been around since the 50s that so many people have memories attached to, and it's just going to be gone. But all I can do about it is document it, try and make a video, and preserve the memory for the future. Anyway, this has been Broadway Commons Mall in Hicksville, New York. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to see me go on more adventures in the future. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.